Welcome to the Superman homepage, My Adventures with Superman podcast. My name is Steve Younis. This is Season 2, Episode 3, Fullmetal Scientist. This originally aired on June 2nd at midnight, so the morning of June 2nd. The story is by Cynthia Fury and directed by Jen Bennett. The episode starts with an explosion in downtown Metropolis, where Superman races to rescue a man from his apartment. As the man is about to be engulfed by flames, Superman exhibits a new power that extends a force field around both himself and the man he's rescuing, allowing them to escape unharmed. On the street below, Superman asks the man if he's okay. Introducing himself as Silas Stone, he assures Superman he's fine, as the Man of Steel flies off to rescue more people. From the alleyway behind him, Leslie Willis, aka Livewire, emerges, having caused the fire as a warning. Leslie forces Silas Stone to delete some kind of video evidence from his phone. A TV commercial sees John Henry Irons, lead engineer, promoting the virtues of Amatech, a tech company setting up base in Metropolis. As Sam Lane sits in the apartment watching the TV, Jimmy is on the phone arguing with Flip, who wants to go out on a story assignment for Flamebird alone, even though she's only 11. She wants to use a toy helicopter, what she calls the flying newsroom, to help her cover stories. While he's on the phone, Superman comes to the window. He needs Jimmy to pass him his Clark Kent clothes without alerting Sam Lane. As he gets Superman the clothes, he asks Sam to please clean up after himself. The place is a mess. As Clark enters, Sam isn't impressed with who Clark is. As Clark rushes off to meet Lois for coffee, she can't meet him as Perry has sent her off to cover the press conference at Amatech. Clark tries to tell her about the tracking beacon he has in his possession to find his cousin Kara, but realizes he has a deadline of his own he needs to get done. At the Amatech press conference, Thomas Weston, the loud and obnoxious CEO of the company, introduces Metropolis to the company's Metallo security bots. As he attempts to demonstrate the AMA fusion reactor that powers the system, it's clear the technology isn't ready, and he hurriedly shuts it down and refuses to answer any questions. Lois Lane and Vicky Vale try to outdo one another in an attempt to get answers from Weston. As he races off, Lois and Vicky chase after him, continually trying to one-up each other to get the scoop. At his desk at the Daily Planet, Clark struggles to come up with an idea for a story when Jimmy interrupts him with a voicemail on his phone. A man has a story about killer robots in Metropolis, and Flip is on the trail to find out who sent the message. Inside Amatech, Lois discovers a lab with obvious signs of damage. She finds a bag on the floor containing John Henry Irons' home address. Vicky Vale sneaks up on Lois and is planning on getting to the address first. Superman flies Jimmy to the address Flip was able to track the message to. When they get there, she's in the apartment waiting for them. As is John Henry Irons, he's happy to see them as he has concerns about what is happening at Amatech. He had built steel mech suits, but Weston decided instead to go with the less reliable Metallo robots, which, during testing, resulted in an overload of the AMA fusion reactor, causing the damage Lois found at the lab. Weston didn't care, he decided to push ahead with the project regardless. Lois and Vicky both arrive at Irons' apartment, but so does Leslie Willis, aka Livewire. She was sent to silence John Henry Irons the same way she did Silas Stone, however she wasn't prepared for Superman to be there. Destroying John's computer evidence of the problems at Amatech, Livewire makes a quick exit, giving a piece of her mind to Weston over the phone as she escapes. Worried that he's going to be shut down, Weston turns on the AMA fusion reactor. Superman flies John Henry Irons to the reactor plant, but Weston destroys the controls and sets the Metallo robots to take out Superman. Iron gets inside the building and dons his steel mech suit to help Superman. The AMA fusion reactor is overloading and about to explode. Outside, Jimmy instructs Flip to use the flying newsroom. Superman uses his newly acquired force field ability to try to encase the AMA fusion reactor. It's expanding and he's not sure he can hold it. John Henry Irons uses his hammer to break the pillars powering the reactor, but the Metallo robots are about to overpower him when Flip's flying newsroom distracts the Metallos, allowing John Henry Irons to break the final pillar, saving the day. With Metropolis safe, Jimmy confides to John that he doesn't think he's suited to being a boss. John assures him he's on the right track by trusting in the people under his care. Impressed with Lois's tenacity, Vicky Vale offers her a job at the Gotham Gazette, something Lois has dreamed of since she was a kid. Torn between her loyalty to the Daily Planet, leaving Metropolis, and working with Vicky Vale in Gotham, Lois isn't sure about what she should do. Vicky leaves her business card with Lois until she makes up her mind. As he looks on at the destruction left behind at Amatech, Superman is concerned that he almost got everyone killed. Lois assures him that he doesn't have to do it alone. There are good people who will always be there to help him, people like John Henry Irons. Lois's talk gives him an idea and he rushes back to the Daily Planet as Clark Kent to submit his story. He writes about John Henry Irons and how he helped to save Metropolis, as John, in his steel mech suit, helps restore Amatec after the averted disaster. Security arrives demanding he leave the premises, leaving the mech suit behind. The new owner wants him out. Enter Lex Luthor. Lex and Amanda Waller look on at their newly acquired Metallo robot army. Once again, I give this episode a 4 out of 5 rating. Some interesting developments this episode. I wasn't sure what to make of Superman's force field power. It's almost an extreme version of the bioelectric aura idea from the comic books, but that usually only applies to anything directly up against his skin, like his costume. I don't recall him ever being able to extend a force field to protect people and objects he's touching. This episode also introduced us to some familiar names: Thomas Weston, the CEO of Amatec, along with Silas Stone, father of Victor Stone, the future cyborg, and John Henry Irons, aka Steel. Weston was a wild character, completely over the top and crazy, willing to put people's lives in danger to achieve his personal goals. A two-dimensional villain character, but one that was necessary for the story being told. We didn't get to see too much of Silas Stone, but it was quite cool to see John Henry Irons in this universe. It'll be interesting to see just how involved he and his niece Natasha will be in Superman's life moving forward. Lois and Vicky Vale competing to get the scoop on what was going on at Amatec was a fun part of this episode. It was so good to see Lois being able to hold her own when going up against the more experienced Vicky Vale. I'll be interested to see how Lois deals with the job offer. I was also happy to see some mature growth for Jimmy Olsen this episode. The chat he had with John Henry Irons at the end of the episode was a great moment. I'm glad Jimmy was able to come to terms with being a boss and understanding he needs to trust in the talent of those in his care. Once again, this episode ended with another Lex Luthor surprise moment. He's really building to become a major threat to Superman and friends, and the interesting thing is they're completely unaware of that fact. He's not even on their radar yet. Clark having to deal with Sam Lane as a roommate is proving as funny and as awkward as I imagined. It was also interesting to see Superman and Clark realize that there's no shame in allowing other people to help him. It seems to be the theme of Season 2 so far, personal character growth for Clark, Lois and Jimmy. I like it. I'm Steve Younis from SupermanHomepage.com.